Oklahoma State's bringing back the spring football game to showcase basically an entire new roster, which typically is a risky proposition. But I'm thinking there could be some changes that could equal spring games happening every single year again.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are we feeling, our Big 12 brethren? Shout out to the regulators. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Aldeo State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Mazda. They put the same drive into every single detail. Wins define the moment, but putting in the work, that defines you. Stay tuned for this week's Moving the Game Forward moment, because there's more to Mazda, just like there's also more to you. We get to roll right into this Cowboy football conversation. Thank you, Eric Morris, Chad Weiberg, and the other powers that be that brought back the spring game to Oklahoma State this season. And let's face it, if Oklahoma State had 65, 64, 60, whatever new players coming in, Mike Gundy would have never done a spring game in that scenario, most likely, because you're going to tip your hand and you're going to give the availability for guys to have breakout moments, and then that get used against you in this tampering world that we all live in. So you kind of wanted to keep some of your backup players under the radar. You didn't want to have your second string quarterback come into a spring game and throw for $180 and 3 touchdowns, because then there's a high likelihood you're not going to keep that backup quarterback for very long. So I understand why Mike Gundy, to some degree, was trying to prevent spring games. And we've heard people like Nebraska and OU and others considered blue bloods saying that the spring game doesn't do them any benefits, because that's exactly what it does. It showcases players that aren't quite starters yet, that are definitely good enough to be starters elsewhere. Therefore, they use that film to just do that. They go elsewhere. Welcome to the tampering world that we all live in. But I think this is absolutely massive for Oklahoma State. There's some schools that could probably get away without a spring game. They could do, an extravaganza meet and greet type of thing, which Oklahoma State, I would imagine, is still going to do. But I think the spring game is big, especially whenever you're breaking in an entirely new roster, essentially. This is the first time the fan base will really get eyes on Drew Mestemaker and Caleb Hawkins and Wyatt Young. Sure, a lot of us as fans have kind of watched some of their highlights and films, but we weren't exactly sitting down and watching every single North Texas game, nor were we watching every Tulane game, etc., just because of those potential coaching hires, because I don't think anybody anticipated that Oklahoma State would have gone down the way that it has the last 2 seasons to equal the greatest Oklahoma State football coach of all time getting his exit papers, or essentially finding his own way to get his exit papers. This is absolutely big, though, for teams like Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Iowa State. I think you need these spring games to increase the fan base, the support, the donors. All of that stuff is going to be an integral piece into how Oklahoma State can be moving forward. And not only is it a good opportunity for us to finally get physical eyes on the Drew Mestemaker, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Youngs of the world, but more importantly, I think it'll be a good thing to see what the returning guys look like. What will Malik Charles look like with another year of offseason and conditioning? What will Jaleel Johnson and Deshaun Brown and LaDainian Fields and all of these other guys who were pieces last season, how will they benefit from this completely new strength and conditioning staff and philosophy? These advanced plyometrics and the RSI stuff that we're now incorporating, I think could be absolutely massive for some of our big body beasts down low. We already know that Jaleel Johnson has the capability to play defensive end, to play that hybrid linebacker kind of thing. And now you have Dallas Winter Johnson coming over from Tulane that could potentially fill that role, which means Jaleel Johnson could go back to like an original tight end or defensive end kind of position, but have more athletic abilities, have more versatility, dexterity, pliability to get sideline to sideline, to get off of blocks a little bit quicker. It'll be exciting to see what the technical aspects are, because it's very clear to see that as good as Jules Montanar is, our development last season at the quarterback position was pretty stale until we saw some of the backups. When we saw Eric, when we saw LaDainian, that was a little bit of a different group. So I think we need to see some of those guys, and you have Colin Lewis coming over, right? PFF graded top 10 safeties in the transfer portal. Not only is he going to be a big piece, but I think you also have to take into consideration that this staff is probably going to do things significantly different. And that is exciting for Oklahoma State fans because we've essentially watched the same style of operation for the last 20 years. Now we get to see something different. Now we get to see all the new shiny stars coming into Oklahoma State, seeing what Isaiah Chisholm can do. If Isaiah Chisholm and Gunnar Wilson and Trip White, if they can make their numbers transferable on the football field where we all get the eyeballs to see it, that's going to be absolutely massive for fan investment. That's going to be huge for more donors. If we show up to the spring game and it does look like a team that has so much athletic capabilities, we're going to, maybe it's the QR code thing again, right? We can revisit some of these opportunities to get Oklahoma State more financial compensation, but I think the spring game is absolutely huge. Again, some schools probably could get away without a spring game, and it's not going to affect their ownership, their ticket sales, or anything to that effect. And I think the ticket sales at Oklahoma State this year are going to be remarkable because of that offensive firepower. But this is a good chance for us to see what that offensive firepower can do up against the new athletic capabilities of the defense, to see if what we witnessed out of some of the emergent guys in this previous year is going to hold true. This offensive line group, yeah, get Louis Canepa back, massive. Jacoby Sanders back, absolutely huge. Caleb Hackelman, I think, is going to be a piece of this offensive line moving forward. But you brought in some other pieces. You bring in 6'7" Ashton Aleppo. You bring in 6'6" Jacob Sexton. You bring in some of these other pieces that we need to see how it goes on the field. And then, honestly, the different position groups, how they do things. Right, last year, one of the things that I was excited about, ironically enough, I like old school. I appreciate old school coaching, which we're going to get to in segment 3 here too. But it was a little bit too much, right? Too much vulgarity. Yeah, you can let curse words fly and make it accentuate a point. I get that, but it doesn't have to be almost in a berating kind of style. But again, that was the SEC flavor that Todd Grantham and his staff brought over. So color me insanely excited. And it was exciting. The players were excited at first until they started getting pitted against each other and NIL started becoming a conversation and guys started talking about their NIL dollar bills and how they were able to continue to get rewards of playing time. And the guys that weren't getting very much NIL, that were late or never late to anything, early to everything, stayed late to everything, those guys, kind of got shafted. That is not going to carry over into the season because of the metrics that Raj Murdy utilizes. We have proven if you're a Drew Messamaker, if you're a Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young, we will pay you. And I think we even proved that to some degree with Ollie Gordon a couple of years ago when we were not involved in NIL, but we still did enough to keep Ollie Gordon. Who's going to be the emergence out of the running back room other than Caleb Hawkins? Is it going to be Io Ade coming over from James Madison after a couple of successful seasons at North Texas? Is it going to be Trey Page the third? Is he going to have an emergent style of situation similar to what we were hoping to get out of a Freddie Brock in this previous transfer class? There's just so many things that we need to get eyes on to build up this season because the excitement level is crazy. Thanks to guys like ESPN and CBS for putting Oklahoma State in these CFPs and these top 25s. We are so insanely excited. I would also think that this might be the biggest attended spring game because it'll be different. The team's different. The firepower is different. We got a Blitnikoff candidate and a Doak Walker candidate and a Heisman candidate. We got all that stuff. But now that there's no spring portal, this could be a yearly occurrence, right? This could be something that takes away any excuses. If you are a Nebraska or an OU and you have kind of contemplated why this wouldn't be an advantageous route for you moving forward, if you don't have a spring portal window, this is precisely what you should be doing for your fan base. That seemed to be the one thing that Mike Gundy didn't take into consideration when it came to the spring game is how big it was for the fans. Because again, I've said it before, I was one of those kids originally growing up before we got season tickets in 97 that, I could probably go to a game, but the spring game was kind of the event for the family. And I think that does help you grow the fan base. Whenever you get young kids super invested into that kind of atmosphere, that's how you continue to grow the fan base. So I'm insanely excited, as you can probably tell. And I'm even more excited that the NCAA finally did something right, and they removed this spring portal window. So now you can open up a little bit more. Is the playbook going to be more than 14, 15 plays on either side? No, probably not ever in a spring game. But you can showcase the backup running back. You can showcase that true freshman 6'4" wide receiver. You can showcase those guys without having the concern of that tape getting utilized against you within the next few weeks. So, yeah, it should be a yearly occurrence, but it's risky for Eric Morse to even do this, right? If he would have said, we've got almost 70 new players, it's not a good idea to do a spring game this year, I would imagine most of the fan base would have probably said, okay, we don't like it, but we get it. So for him to do this, it's huge. I think that's his way of saying that I want to ingratiate myself with the Oklahoma State fan base as much as possible, as soon as possible. He's going to hockey games, basketball games, wrestling matches, duels. He's hitting everything. And now he's given us a game that we didn't have for a little bit. And we had to fight and bicker about whether it was a good idea, a bad idea, why we couldn't move it up the road to Stillwater High School. Now we don't have to worry about that anymore. And I think this new portal window is going to open it up a lot. Speaking of opening things up a lot, it's nice to get out on the open road and just let the hammer down occasionally. Mazda's always moving the game forward. For those who show there's more to the score than just simply what is on the screen, they remind us of what it really takes to raise the bar when you get in and you feel that craftsmanship. It's the extra work off the court to dial in every detail, give it that extra fire, that grit, and that never quit attitude. That passion is what they put into every single model. Highlights make the reel, sure, but what makes you get there is what makes it all count. There's more to Mazda. Get with Mazda today because there is also, of course, more to you. Not so fast, my friends. FanDuel wants to jump in on the action to help you capitalize on this Winter Olympics season. If you ever wondered what the experience of an NBA Finals would be like in person or seeing that curling get rocking and rolling to an extra level, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole 9 yards, the whole experience. If you're ready, or you're already looking at the board and thinking which team can make a big, deep run, this is a perfect time for you to lock it in. You're going to love the futures, especially this time of year. Whether it's picking a team to win a championship or grab a conference title, it adds an extra layer of excitement to every single game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but it can also send you to the finals. So make sure that you visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game today with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Cruising right along. There seems to be a lot of disgruntlement continuing to pop up with Steve Lutz, and I kind of get it, right? But I think we also have to take into consideration the position that we were in coming in, and instantaneously you saw that team get better. Well, he was hired late. He didn't have the opportunity to recruit a lot of the transfer portal dudes, so he got like a kind of an athletic, scrappy bunch. And the latter half of the season, we started winning. We go to the NIT. And that was actually pretty exciting for Oklahoma State fans because we haven't really been sniffing a tournament for a handful of years now. But this was supposed to be the uptick, right? Then you go get Anthony Roy, a guy who can drop 30 all day, every day. You got a guy like Victorious Miller that can legitimately drop 20 at any time. Kanye Cleary can do it. Jalen Curry has proven he can do it. Parsifala is the leader, the beast that we always knew we needed. He's a Marshall Moses kind of guy. But for whatever reason, it's not coming together. And there was expectations to get to the NCAA tournament this year. It is extremely disappointing. I'm with you. I get it that we're currently not trending in that direction. Like we'd have to pull up a couple massive upsets, protect the Algariba, and do some pretty fun things on the road for us to kind of creep back into that top 7-ish conversation. Now we still have the Big 12 tournament. So no matter what happens in the remainder of the regular season, there's an opportunity that they could lock in and make a run at the Big 12 tournament. That's a possibility. And that may be exactly what needs to happen at this point in time to get the Cowboys back into this bubble conversation, because we're not in it. So I get it. There is fair reasons to be frustrated with Steve Lutz, just like there's more than fair reasons to be frustrated with Josh Holiday, right? But Steve Lutz has only been here a couple of years, barely. And he just brought in a top 10 recruiting class. The NIL investment supposedly is about to increase like fivefold, 4 times, or whatever the case may be. So you have to give him a little bit of time, a little bit of leeway. Last year, I think he got a grace period because of the roster. He was kind of forced to get late to kind of fill seats. This year was supposed to be a little bit different, but even coming into the season with the talent that we acquired, for me, the objective was to finish top 7, 8 in the Big 12, because that typically gets you a ticket to the NCAA dance. And we were hanging right in there, but you cannot lose to Arizona State. It's just unforgivable. And you dang sure, can't put yourself in a position where you now have to beat a KU. You have to beat a Houston for you to kind of get back into that conversation. And that's not where we were supposed to be. But I have seen some, talk online about the Brad Underwood ordeal and where would Oklahoma State be right now if Brad Underwood was still the guy. And look at his record at Illinois, which is pretty impressive. And look at some of his recruiting classes at Illinois, pretty impressive. I get all that. And earlier, I think it was Carson Cunningham. He reposted an article from a long time ago. I can't find it, but it was by Barry Trammell. I read it. Essentially, it was putting fault in multiple areas. And part of the fault, I think, maybe there's some fault, obviously, with Mike Holder to some degree. But I think a lot of this is Brad Underwood was just kind of a snake, y'all. I mean, let's be real. And now that K-State's put themselves in a terrible position, which we're about to rip, rail, and rant on here in a few. But now there's obviously talk of, maybe we can get Brad Underwood because he's a K-State alum, which if so, cool. That's great. He is a good coach. And K-State is being his alma mater. Perhaps that does change the equation. But he had a deal at Oklahoma State. His contract was about to more than double at Oklahoma State. But it was a handshake kind of deal, right? And then we go to the NCAA tournament, and we're going to Indianapolis. And Mike Holder had even said in that article with Barry Trammell that I don't like loose ends, right? I liked that we kind of came to an agreement and shook hands, but I actually wanted to get the contract officially signed. So I flew up to Indianapolis. I was supposed to meet with him. He never showed up to the meeting. I didn't take it hard, says Mike Holder. I was just okay, well, perhaps he's preparing for the game. I can't fault him for that. I'll probably just leave him be. No big deal. And then, like a thief in the night, the next time he sees Brad Underwood, it's Brad Underwood handing him his resignation. No back and forth. There's no negotiation. No, nothing. There's just an agreement. Yes, I'm coming back. And even Brad Underwood himself said, and I know it's just, we hear this all the time, but this is his dream, kind of a dream job. And he idolized Eddie Sutton, and he idolized this court and this atmosphere. And, this is one of the biggest opportunities ever. And then he has no affiliation whatsoever with Illinois. Regional geographic footprint when it comes to recruiting is a little bit different. But he took the money. And then Mike Holder even said we were actually okay with getting pretty close to that. Maybe not matching. I think it was $3 million, and our offer was going to go up to $2.9 million and then get over $3 million within a 5-year time span. That was the original deal that Mike Holder thought Brad Underwood was cool with. And now that Brad Underwood missed that meeting and just kind of ghosted Holder, it makes you wonder. No, it doesn't make you wonder. Right? That's what's in the article. It makes you wonder if he was having another meeting. Nah, that was what he was doing. We got Lincoln Riley by Brad Underwood. So I don't understand why there's still some people in the fan base talking about how I miss Brad Underwood and I wish Mike Holder would have made that thing happen. Mike Holder did what he was supposed to do. And he thought that he was talking to another, gentleman. and they were going to do it an old school way. Just it goes to show that handshake deals they don't work. They don't work, and it's sad and it stinks. But it also, I think it's sad and it stinks that people are now saying, "Well, we don't need Steve Lutz. We should have kept Brad Underwood. We should go back after Brad Underwood." And no. I don't think that somebody leaving like a thief in the night after tentatively agreeing to a deal to come back to be the coach at Oklahoma State, likely while having all of these backdoor meetings the entire time. Again, I hate when people come out and say, this is where I've always wanted to be. This is like a dream scenario. And this is my forever home. I think that's, correct me in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's what the exact verbiage was. This can be my forever home. And we're talking about how it sucks that we didn't get to keep him. No, I completely disagree. I think Brad Underwood, and even behind the scenes, there was already conversations that he had some pretty, I don't know, not great relationships with some of the like back office kind of people in the building of Galgrava. and maybe there was some contentious relationships with some of the powers to be. Like Mike Holder said, I thought we had a great relationship. I thought we were boys. I thought that he looked me in my eye and agreed to something. Turns out I was wrong. Why would we want that back? And why are people saying that it's Mike Holder's fault that this deal didn't come together? No, Brad Underwood decided he was going to throw out his integrity and take a different job strictly for money. That's it. After all of that horse piss about I love Eddie Sutton and I love Stillwater America, I love Oklahoma State, boo-boo-doo-hoo-ba-doo-boo. No, let's just cut the crud. I'm not saying Steve Lutz is the bee's knees, but I'm saying Steve Lutz is already, I think, better than Travis Ford. I think he's already better than Mike Boynton. And don't get her twisted. Travis Ford had some successful years in there, and I do think some of us forgot about that. Somebody commented that last time I talked about Travis Ford, is that he was winning, but he wasn't winning to the standards. And unfortunately, since then the standards have dropped. Speaking of standards, I don't know what K-State's are, but they're not great. Before we get to K-State, we got to talk about this being a crazy world. And if you're into hiring or in the process of hiring, don't just grab a warm body off the street to fulfill a position. Deadlines can stack up, inboxes can overflow, and the one position that you have to fill is sitting wide open. That's workplace chaos. And you can fix that workplace chaos when the pressure's on, when you need the right hire, with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles upon your post. And here's a fun stat. In the last minute that I've been talking to y'all, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all the boxes. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show. And the listeners of this show will get a $70 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Again, Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions do apply. If you need to hire, well, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Last but not least, K-State. What are you doing? Why? And you know what? I purposely waited a couple days, let this thing breathe, because I assumed when something crazy like this happens, right, you fire a coach for, I don't know, holding his flipping players accountable. Like, what are we talking about? What are we doing? How Charmin, extra squishy, baby shit soft is Kansas State right now for getting rid of a coach for holding his players accountable? I think that this is going to have terrible ramifications for K-State, at least in the interim. I think they're going to have a hard time keeping this roster together. This same roster that, yes, he said a lot of these guys won't be back next year. And by the way that they're playing, you could see why, that makes sense. That is something Eddie Sutton would say. Hell, that's something Brad Underwood would say. And then K-State fires him. I think this is complete bullcrap, right? They're trying to fire him with cause. Well, my bunny quotes are messed up today. With cause. And the cause is what? Well, I mean, there is no cause. Like, it's absolutely preposterous. So I hope and pray that K-State gets tilted upside down and loses their you-know-what to their coach that they just got rid of. I get that Tang was not excelling. He wasn't performing at the level. He wasn't at the standard that he kind of put forth his first year taking K-State to the Elite Eight. He's not living up to that. I get that. But it's chicken shiz of the highest degree for K-State to sit here and pretend that there's actually a justifiable reason. You're already not having a great year. You already know you're going to be missing some players because he just told you. It makes zero sense. Somebody out here in K-State country or even O-State country, explain to me how this makes any sense whatsoever for them to fire their coach with 7 games left and let him coach another game after those terrible comments, supposedly. I hate how soft some of these conversations have gotten to. And I certainly hate that a Big 12 school that we do consider brothers, that we love to death, our K-State brethren, your AD is trash. And your president either backed this or decided not to do anything about it. I don't know what the case may be. But y'all need to run that mother trucker out of Dodge. And I think it's fair. Do I think Colin Klein's probably a good hire, the right hire? Yeah, I do. Do I think it was a year or two too short? Yeah, because Chris Klieman was still producing. So some of the decisions that are currently happening in Manhattan and Kansas are pretty crazy. They don't make any sense. They're just bold-faced stupid. And it's disappointing. I hate it. I hate it for K-State. And now I think that they're going to suffer in basketball. The players that were probably contemplating staying, they're probably gone now. Right? There's already some talk that there's some players had to be convinced to even finish the daggone season. And you don't think that's going to circulate? You don't think there's going to be conversations in the transfer portal about what Kansas State does? What kind of ramifications does this have for your coaching search? Like, what coach wants to come coach at K-State knowing that if you do hold your players accountable and you do happen to have the audacity to admit we overpaid these mother truckers and most of them won't be here next year, if you can't hold your players accountable, why would you want that job? There's probably not a certain dollar amount that makes sense because you're on thin ice. Your players hold the control. And the crazy part of this, again, is there might be some players that don't like the way this went down. Even the players that weren't performing, even some of the players that probably weren't going to be there next year, they probably didn't want to see their coach fired with 7 games left because they got called out for their stuff. But it is what it is. We are where we are. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor. Hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate what you do. Go do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave them reviews. Already up. Later, daters.